I had like 5 different videos that I was gonna make, I wanted to make, urgently wanted to make before other people could run away with it, get out in front of me. But I couldn't make any of them. Couldn't open the computer today. I've just been working a lot, running around like crazy, and just been having a hard time keeping my attention on the right things and just not being consumed with the violence and wickedness. So I couldn't make all the videos today. I didn't feel like I could do anything but just sit quietly alone all day and just, pray until I could get my stuff straight again. But I ended up opening the Bible and reading a story, and I figured I'll just talk about that. It's the only thing I was gonna make. When Jacob is leaving Laban in Genesis 30, also it's probably because I heard Alan and Noah talking about this the other day. And this is when Jacob wants to leave Laban. And Laban's already cheated him many times. When he originally agreed to serve him for 7 years for Rachel, he sneaks him Leah, his older daughter, instead, which makes Rachel hate Leah. And he changes his wages 10 times. Then he works another 7 years for Rachel, and he changes his wages 10 times. And so then when he finally goes to leave, give me my wives and my children for whom I have served thee, and let me go, for thou knowest my service which I have done thee. And Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thine eyes, tarry, for I have learned by experience that the Lord hath blessed me for thy sake. So Laban doesn't want Jacob to leave because he knows that he only had a little bit when Jacob came, and now he has a ton because the Lord blessed him because Jacob's there. And Laban always acts like he's Jacob's friend, but really Laban is a wicked, greedy asshole. He's always cheating him and smiling in his face. And he said, appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. And he said unto him, thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. For it was little which thou hadst before I came, and it is now increased unto a multitude. And the Lord hath blessed thee since my coming. And now when shall I provide for mine own house also? He's like, I have to leave, dude. Like, I'm getting old. Like, when am I going to build my own house? And he said, what shall I give thee? And Jacob said, thou shalt not give me anything, if thou wilt do this thing for me. I will again keep thy flock. I will again feed and keep thy flock. I will pass through all thy flock today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and of such shall be my hire. So shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come, when it shall come for my hire before thy face. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. And Laban said, behold, I would it might be according to thy word. And he removed that day the he-goats that were ring-straked and spotted, and all the she-goats that were speckled and spotted, and every one that had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he set 3 days' journey betwixt himself and Jacob. And Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. And Jacob took him rods of green poplar and of the hazel. And we'll continue in a second. But I think Laban's cheating him again here, in my opinion. Basically, they make a deal. Most of the cattle are like solid color. Most of the goats are solid color, and most of the sheep are white. So, but there's sometimes they come out of brown sheep, or sometimes they come out of speckled spotted goat, or sometimes they come out of speckled cattle. So Jacob says to him, look, whatever, which is usually pretty rare, whatever comes out brown in the sheep or speckled and spotted in the goats and the cattle, that'll be mine. And the reason he says it'll speak for my righteousness in the time to come, because if they're born a lot that way when it's supposed to be rare, it will prove that he's righteous and the Lord is blessing him, But we know that basically a spotted or striped goat is more likely to bear a speckled or striped goat. That's how genetics works, the genotypes and phenotypes. Or a brown sheep is more likely to bear a brown sheep. So Laban takes out all the speckled and spotted goats and cattle and all the brown sheep, gives them to his sons and sends them 3 days, or basically separates them 3 days away from Jacob. And Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks, like all the regular ones. So basically it's going to be even harder for him to bear brown sheep or speckled and spotted cattle, because he's taking care of all the white sheep and solid colored ones. If you understand what I'm saying, he separates them way apart, so it makes it even less likely for the already brown and speckled ones to breed with the other ones. And Jacob took him rods of green poplar and of the hazel and of the chestnut tree. So he takes 3 different branches from 3 different trees, representing the 3 different, flocks of animals, the sheep, the goats, and the cattle, and pilled white strakes in them, and made the white to appear which was in the rods. He carved white stripes in the sticks, in the rods, to expose, and made the white appear which was in the rods, like the white meat in the middle of a stick. He carves stripes into them, just like the cattle he wants to bear. He carves these sticks so they're striped. And he set the rods which he had pilled before the flocks in the gutters, in the watering troughs, when the flocks came to drink, that they should conceive when they came to drink. So the animals, get busy at the watering trough. He knows that. He knows that when he brings them in to the watering trough, that's when they do their thing and conceive. And the flocks conceived before the rods, and brought forth cattle ring-straight, speckled, and spotted. So this is like I think a parable about how what your attention is on is what happens. What you put your attention on is what you manifest in your reality, and what you feel more, and what you think more, and experience more. I think that's what this is a parable of, because you see, he kind of makes little models out of the rods. He makes the rods striped, like little cattle and sheep, little striped cattle and sheep. And the chestnut branch, like a little brown sheep. And he puts them in the watering trough, because that's where their eyes are when they're conceiving. They're looking in the watering trough, and they're looking at these rods while they're conceiving. So because their attention is on something striped and ring-striped and spotted, speckled and spotted, they conceive babies that are ring striped, speckled, and spotted, because whatever your attention is on is what grows. And it's because that's like their fruit. So that what your attention is on, that's the fruit you're going to bear. Like the baby sheep and goats and everything, that's their fruit, is their young they're bearing. And obviously the Lord told Jacob to do this. And Jacob did separate the lambs, and set the faces of the flocks toward the ring-straked, and all the brown in the flock of Laban. And he put his own flocks by themselves, and put them not unto Laban's cattle. He's separating all, the ring-straked and the brown ones for himself, like they agreed. And it came to pass, whensoever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters. He makes the cattle look at the rods that he carved striped and stuff, that they might conceive among the rods. See, they conceive while they're looking at the rods that he carved to look like how he wants them to conceive, because that's where their attention is. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in. So the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger were Jacob's. And the man increased exceedingly, and had much cattle, and maidservants, and menservants, and camels, and asses. And so when they're strong, the big strong cattle come to drink, he puts the rods before them, so he can have all the strongest cattle. And when the weak, sick ones come, he doesn't put the rods in, so they'll bear the solid colored or white sheep. And he's not cheating him. This is what he deserves. Jacob does exactly what the Lord tells him. He's well beloved by the Lord. Laban has been cheating him this whole time. And then after this, when the Lord tells him to kind of sneak out with all his flocks, and he does, and Laban and his sons and brothers chase him down, and they don't kill him because the Lord comes to Laban in a dream, but Rachel had stolen his images. And the reason I think Rachel stole Laban's images is basically just because screw Laban. Like, he's wicked, greedy, and it's what he deserved. And it wasn't right for her to steal them, but the Lord even uses wicked people. I shouldn't say that, because Rachel's not wicked. But the Lord uses even like the hardness of people's hearts to execute his will, to do the plan. He builds the banks of circumstance, the reality canals, to make happen what is supposed to happen. And Laban's images were supposed to get stolen because he's an a-hole, and God doesn't like people worshiping images. And the reason, Rachel's heart is kind of hard, and she loves Jacob. She has sons now with Jacob, a new family, new house, and she loves Jacob, and she sees that her father is an a-hole and is screwing them all over and would take everything from them if he could. So, she hates her father and cleaves unto Jacob as one flesh. And and the reason that Laban doesn't find them and she's on her period and conceals them and lies, it is the hardness of her heart, but the Lord uses that reality canal, that bank of circumstance, so that Jacob can say in all good conscience, no, I didn't steal them and I don't know what you're talking about. The Lord just arranges that because he can make anything right. And just like, at first Pharaoh didn't want to chase the Israelites through the Red Sea out of Egypt, but the Lord hardened his heart because it's part of a plan and he has a purpose for it. So just like, even though Laban in a wicked way tricked Jacob into marrying Leah first instead of Rachel, and it kind of made Rachel hate Leah, and then even she couldn't conceive because she hated her so much, and made her handmaid conceive, and then later she repented, and he opened her womb, and even all that out of like the wickedness of Laban and the hardness of people's hearts, all combines to fulfill a prophecy that Jacob, who's well loved by the Lord, will have a great seed beyond the sand of the sea. Like, that's just how things work out. You know, everything, even wickedness and hardness of people's hearts, is, you know, all in the hands of the plan, and all ultimately is leading to one thing. And so I think it's a parable about where our attention is what happens. If you look up, you go up. If you look down, you go down. If you look out, you spin in circles. So I think it's a parable, and or it's like a, you know, that's what grows, what you give your attention. Like the way that the cattle and their attention is on the striped models. When they conceive striped babies. Like, that's what happens because that's what their attention was on. I also think it's like could be a message to us, because just to be frank or honest, I'm not being arrogant or proud, but most people, for whatever reason, just aren't able to understand some of these things. But the people that can understand these things hold weight, and they're kind of like shepherds in a way, and people will do what they do, even without making a video or writing a book or anything like that. For some reason, just because they hold more weight, what you do and what you put your attention on, other people will do also. And, you know, what you put your attention on is will happen more and more. Maybe another angle of the parable is also, you know, at this point, Jacob is a slave. He's a bondservant to a wicked master, to Laban, who cheats him and, you know, would beat him and kill him if he could, if the Lord didn't put a hedge around him. But if we skip forward, a few chapters, few pages, we know that Jacob's actually going to be a great master, and his seed will be as the sand of the sea. So I think another angle of the parable is that the way you learn to be a good master is by being a good slave to a very wicked master. And likewise, that's how a wicked master learns how to be a good slave. This reality we see, this fallen world, virtual environment, is an overlay. And this overlay apparently, not actually, but apparently separates us from the Lord. The Lord is never more than an arm's length away. That's the truth. But the overlay is powered by an engine that we can imagine as a kind of windmill. So it doesn't have a battery or a gas tank or any internal power source, but must be powered by change in the environment. The windmill is powered by the activity, the cycles and shifting wind of the organic environment. That's what powers the overlay. You power the overlay. We push the windmill when we direct our intention towards the screen. It is like we're all blowing our breath into the windmill and making it turn. They say energy goes where attention goes, but I say there's no energy but attention. There is no time. Time isn't real. There's no energy but attention. Your attention is your power, which you choose where to spend or how to spend it. But energy doesn't go where attention flows. You do. You go where attention flows. When you look up, you go up. When you look down, you go down. When you look out at the screen, you spin in circles, slowly descending, circling the drain. Our attention is wind. Our attention is our spiritual breath. Our attention is our power. And the screen is the collector. It is like the fan blades of the windmill engine, and it collects our attention for power. When we focus our attention on the screen, we are blowing very powerful breath into the windmill and making it turn. If we don't blow on it with our attention, it will run out of power and fade away. But there will still be 7 billion other people paying attention to the screen. Won't that still power it? No, it will not. They don't matter. That's an illusion. We are the only ones that matter. The unaware mass has no power. It's an illusion. They are styrofoam stones. They hold no weight. They have integrated with the environment, the screen, and literally become part of the collector, integrated with the collector system, and become little fan blades on the windmill to capture your attention. They gave it all of their attention, their intention, same thing, and identified with the vacuum rather than the source, the collector rather than the emitter. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. James 1:17. They have identified with the false, with what is not, and have believed in the illusion, when in reality there's only truth, perfect truth above, and a spectrum of less and less truth descending. There is only good in the Lord above, and a lack as we descend and remove ourselves further from the Lord. They have identified with the false, with down, with what is not, rather than what is. And in fully identifying with the environment, they have become the environment. When you look up, you go up. When you look down, you go down. And the wicked ones, the tares, the sons of the flesh, know not the truth. They know not what they do. So even if they were capable of being honest, they would say their intention or desire is authority, honor, station. They would say they want your attention. But even though secretly that's what they think they want, actually they are just acting as the screen, the monolithic entity, which doesn't really care which way you look, just as long as it's any way but up. Or if your sight is your light, then what you look at grows. And the screen and the news and celebrities and the Pharisees and everyone that demands your attention and your respect and, hey, excuse me, sir, look at me. I demand an answer. And all the people that make broad their phylacteries and enlarge the borders of their garments, they're like weeds and vines and stinky trees that stink and make rotten fruit. But when you put your sight light straight up, when you put your attention on the Lord is like this tree that we are all branches on. So when you put all your attention on the Lord, this tree grows, and it lifts all of us branches higher up out of the choking vines and poison ivy, and up away from all this stinking rotten fruit. A rising tide lifts all ships. So the best thing you can do for yourself is really going to be the best thing you can do for everyone else. So when you put your attention down on the vines and stinking fruit, they grow. Not just outside you, but inside you. Cancers and disease and uncleanness starts popping up like toadstools inside you. Because this is the Y machine. It's like an eyeball pressed right up against a mirror, and your sight light is shining right back into itself. So when you put your attention on these things outside of yourself, they don't just grow outside, they grow inside too. But when we put our attention straight up into the canopy or crown or hat of this great tree of life that grows inside us too. The presence, the power of the Lord grows inside, because we are all branches of that tree. When we put our attention on the leaves and fan blades of the collector, the vines and rotten fruit, it is lost forever. It is a net negative transaction. No one benefits. It's lost. But because we are connected branches of this great tree, when we put our attention on the canopy, the crown, all the branches get all that energy. The tree is like an infinite force multiplier, free energy. It's a perpetual motion machine. And the attention you give it all comes right back down to you, the branch. But it also all equally feeds all the other branches as well.
Must be something I'm not seeing when I said now I'll get free. Find myself in between cliff and sea, cliff and sea, cliff and sea. Cliff and sea, cliff and sea. Charming, dirt rapids flowing.